a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatterspodcast1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What time you said coming over you. You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good morning, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is Ask George this Saturday morning, and of course the big question that everybody has got on their lips this morning as a Newcastle United fan is, when will they announce that Jacob Murphy has got the Ballon d'Or this year? Player of the Month for April 2025. Well done, Jacob. Excellent contribution last month and getting us one step closer to the Champions League. Of course, that's not the question. I think everybody will be spitting feathers because the Amigos wasn't live last night. Sometimes I've got to work, folks, and pay the bills, unfortunately. But, yeah, the badge, the crest, whatever you want to call it. There was a survey sent out to Newcastle United fans yesterday, and they asked us for our opinions about the club crest. They want to change it. And this isn't something new, although relatively new to probably a lot of our fan base, because the last time that the badge, or crest as they call it, was changed was way back in 1988. I was 16. I just left school. Paul Gascoigne was a whippersnapper. 1990 World Cup hadn't even been thought of. Newcastle were spending money as if it was going out of fashion. Who knew that a year later that Newcastle United would be relegated and sack the board campaigns would start? So much history and so much water has flown under the Tyne Bridge and through the River Tyne since the days of 1988, when that NUFC badge with the little magpie underneath the C has become this Newcastle United badge. And I'll just give you my little opinion first. I genuinely didn't like it. I remember I was trying to think, what did I feel as a 16-year-old in 1988 when they changed the badge? I was disappointed. I was concerned. I didn't understand why they were going to change the badge. But then when the badge came out, I actually quite liked it when the significance of, that badge was explained, and the original badge, of course, which is there top left, was it was compared to the badge that had just been presented to us in '88. I actually quite liked it. I grew used to it, and I'm sure many of you who watch this podcast did as well. But there we go. The club are going to change it. For me, one of the things which stands out as I don't want to call it an issue because I'm not against this, but is releasing memorabilia, releasing shirts, clothes, tops, etc. Listen, we know it's a great way to help Newcastle help their financial situation, commercial revenue, and stuff like that's very important. But when is this going to happen is my question. How is it going to happen? Are we going to bring this new top out at the end of May with the old crest on, and then halfway through the season change the crest and bring new merchandise out? Is that the plan? I think a little bit of understanding on that would be very, very helpful for Newcastle fans. But as a whole, I'm not disappointed. George, it's called Ask George, not Ask Steve. What's your views?
Well, you see, with my history is that I would gone back to the original, which was the City Coat of Arms. The NUFC, the NFC badge with the round one with the little magpie underneath. My first concern about that is that there's only one magpie. You must have two. You must have two. You're going to have a magpie on, but the City Coat of Arms was always the badge we wore when we went to Wembley. And the reason it changed was fairly straightforward. And I think it was the 76 final. Newcastle were going to wear the badge. They got a letter from the City Council saying, if you're going to wear the badge, we'd like to be paid for that. So the answer they got from the club. So very hastily, a new badge was made. And hence we've got what we've got. For me, I'm very much a traditionalist. I'd be quite happy to go back to the City Coat of Arms if that was possible. If not, then I'm sure there are so many clever designers now in textiles, particularly within Adidas, of all people, who can come up with something which is easy to recognize, easy to reproduce, and get them on board saying, well, that's the badge for X, 10 years, 20 years, forever, whatever. But the notion that it might change halfway through the year, I agree with you, Steve. That would be awful. Because that would just smack of profiteering to me. And that's the last thing I want to see. But I'm, yes, I'm traditional, but I'm not against change. If we can come up with something which is sustainable and easily recognizable, then yeah, I wouldn't be too unhappy with that. But it's an interesting debate. The good thing is at least they've allowed people to have a say. It's not just a done deal, as it were. So that's something. But I look forward to what comes out of it. But I'm not stuck in a tradition. I'm quite happy to see things move on.
So which one's your favourite on there, George?
Well, the old City Coat of Arms, the top left-hand corner.
Yeah, okay. I mean, there's been lots of suggestions. I've seen badges with Anton Deck, Jimmy Nail and Sam Fender on. I've seen green and white ones, which are a little bit naughty. Yeah. People trying to wind people up, which have been suggested. Some haven't been a dramatic change from what we've got already. But yeah, I mean, look, that's me suggesting, George, that they could do it halfway through the season. That's just my mindset on the way that they do things.
But it is a possibility. It is a possibility. You're right to raise it.
Yeah. I mean, Dave says, do you think it would tie in with the new stadium? Would they want to build a new ground with our current badge all over and then have to change it?
No, I can't see PIF doing something like that. If something goes on that stadium, that's what will stay for a very long time. I can't see them wanting to emblazon the outside of a new stadium with a logo that they aren't going to sustain. That's just not their style. If they make a decision about putting a logo on the side of the new stadium. That logo will stay. I have no doubt about that. That's just what they like. It would be unthinkable to build a stadium, stick logos on, and then within a short time start trying to change it. No, I think if the stadium's built and it's got logos on it, that's how it'll stay.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've just seen a comment there from Blue Rhythm Boy as well. Craig Hope, obviously journalist for the Daily Mail, said it would be the start of the 26-27 season. That would make sense. And again, that gives that means we'll have now another season of this badge, all the shirts will come out, etc., all the merchandise, and then the following season there'll be a change again, which people are used to buying shirts, tops, and stuff season after season. It's what happens with football fans now. So thanks for that, Blue Rhythm Boy. And obviously, again,
I have to say, when I first seen Craig Hope's piece, I thought I was trying to make my mind up whether he was taking the mickey or not, but no, he was quite serious. And that clarification's good, because that makes sense, But the notion that we'd get partway through the season and start changing again, that would be absolutely crazy.
Okay, get your questions in for George. We are on for another 50 minutes. And tomorrow is the professionals, 9 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, Newcastle in action tomorrow. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Newcastle in action tomorrow. So me, Mitch and Stu will be live at 9 till 10. And then the fans forum on Monday will be live 7 o'clock, I think, if my mindset is right. So we've got a few live podcasts coming up over the next few days. No pre-records, don't worry about that. David Cook says, I'm actually annoyed at some of the journalists stirring up the fan base with reference to Ashley-esque methods with regards to this crest change. What's your views on that, George? Press do that, though. It's how they get their stories, isn't it?
Well, yes. I mean, they wind us up about everything, don't they? If there's some of them, if they can get some dig at Saudi Arabia or whatever, they'll have a go. Journalists can be lazy so-and-sos. If particularly the weekend, if they're looking for something to print on Monday, they'll find the easiest route, and stirring up the fans with something like that is the easiest route. However, there are sometimes issues that come out, particularly with reference to merchandise, and that I sometimes talk to people in the Irish Centre, for example, when they come in and they've got the stuff they've just bought, and some of the complaints they make sound awfully like the complaints they used to make when Ashley was in charge. But it takes a while to sort things out, sadly. But no, I think that's lazy journalism. The ones that do that, it's you can pick the things out, can't you? There's the things about this logo. There's the things about Saudi Arabia. Things about Isak moving, Gordon moving. They've got a range of things at the moment they'll pick on just to get the fans going, and it's all just to get it's clickbait, isn't it? It's mostly a nonsense, actually.
Graham Morton says change can be positive if it's done right. No complaints so far. Is there anything to complain about, George? Is there really anything to complain about? Newcastle United, over the last few seasons, have had their best league finishes other than under Kevin Keegan. They've got into the Champions League again for the first time in 20 years. Almost there now again for the second time. They've won their first domestic trophy. And, they're starting to find the consistency which we've never had. Loads of records have been broken, loads of grounds where we've never been able to win. We're dominating games there now and winning games there now. And, Newcastle fans can start believing about potentially making a go of it for their first league title since 1927. So is there anything to be negative about? I've got to be honest, I've got to side with Graham. Majority of things, I would say that the only thing that we need to complain that we could complain about is what we discussed probably last Friday on the Amigos, which was just this whole thing with the supporters. There's been a few hiccups along the road with that, but other than that, I don't think there's anything to complain about. When you're talking about major things which fans would get annoyed about, like the club crest, like the ground, like this, like that, is there anything do you think to complain about?
Well, with over 70 odd years of being a supporter, I've seen it all, and very little that happens is new, to be perfectly honest. because we've had some real amazing things happen over the years, including, for example, in the 55 final, cup final, when 10 days before the final, we sacked our manager because he wasn't going to play Jackie Milburn. The players rebelled and got the manager sacked, and Milburn played, and the rest is history. But in terms of the playing side of things, the running of the football side of things, it's never been better, Steve, is my view, to be perfectly honest. I mean, if anybody, I was as big a supporter of the takeover as anybody, and was, glad to be on the fringes of what was happening. But from then on, for me, it's been great. The bits that haven't been great, sadly, have been things to do with supporters, like what we've just been talking about, like ticketing, like away tickets, like all that sort of thing. The things that we talk about on here quite regularly. And unfortunately, for those of us that have been around, some of that is just getting the Ashley bit of it out of the system completely. People who are in post, who are still in post, and do things their way, and why shouldn't they, if that's how they do their job? But that's the only area where I've any concern whatsoever. But in terms of what's happening on the football side, if anybody had said when we had the takeover 3 years ago that we'd be even playing in the Champions League, never mind challenging for a place in the semi-final, like we did, and then coming back a couple of years later and be ready again and win a trophy. I mean, it's the stuff dreams are made of, in my opinion. So it's a start for me, and I'm anticipating all the good things that's to come, to be perfectly honest. So no, not a lot of complaints. The complaints I've got are like yours and many others, that there's some niggling things in terms of supporters that need to be get sorted out. And on that scheme as well, they've sometimes opted for the easy road rather than do things where I would say in a proper way. And that the fans of the advisory board, I mean, really and truly, whoever thought of doing that the way they did, really needs their head in their hands, because when you get something that is not elected and looks like it's appointed on favour, which is what it looks like from the outside, it's never going to be satisfied. Fans will always be against it. So they're the things that they need to touch on. But the rest is, as I say, it's stuff that dreams are made of.
Yeah, certainly is. I genuinely don't think there's a great deal to complain about. John Spence doesn't either. He says, I can't believe how some of our so-called supporters are crying over a badge. Yeah, 100%, mate. I really would agree. Sometimes people just like to twist on 21. I think that's probably the best way to describe it.
If they've got nothing to say nice things about, some people nowadays on social media days, they'll find something to complain about. It's as simple as that. And it's easy when you sit at the keyboard, Steve. Well, as well, you know it.
It is. Blue Rhythm Boy says, do you think a speck of green is a realistic possibility in there, or do you think that's just people taking the mick?
Oh, I think there may be some people taking the mick, but it's also it's not just a speck of green, it's a huge lump of green all over the country. You listen to some of the Talk Sports stuff, and you're not going to tell me some of the things that Simon Jordan and Jamie O'Hara come out with aren't tinged with envy because their clubs aren't doing the same thing. In fact, it's more than that. Jordan, of course, now is changing tack slightly and actually complimenting the club and the owners and Eddie Howe, which is all new. But all of that's tinged with green. Anybody that says it's not living in a cloud cuckoo land, and you've got to get used to it, guys. It's been the same since I can remember. We were in the 50s. The cup was ours. Every year people expected us to do it. But the complaints there used to be in the national press, we were the villains because we won it against Blackpool in 51. because we stopped Stanley Matthews getting his medal. We were the villains when we won it in 52 because we robbed Arsenal of a double. They weren't going to get the cup and the league. And we're the villains in 55 because Manchester City were the darlings of the press, and we had no right to knock them off the top by beating them again. So it's not new. And all of that was just green-eyed monster.
Yeah, certainly was. Green is part of the badge. It would be something that I genuinely could see happening, Blue Rhythm Boy. At the end of the day, our owners are Saudi Arabia, PIF, and if they want to do that, they can do that. But I think it'll be something that will be done sensibly, properly. And I'm not going to complain about it. But I'm sure the rest of the lads during the week will have a view about it. We'll wait and see. Les says, I'm not wanting to complain for the sake of it. I really would prefer to remain with the current crest. Yet I suspect the decision has already been made. Yeah. And likewise with the ground and stuff. But communication is what we asked for many, many times, George, during the Ashley era in particular. That's all people wanted, communication. And now that we get it, some people sometimes don't like the message that they get. That's the problem, isn't it?
Well, and the trouble with Ashley, who if ever a man missed the golden opportunity of being a hero, he did. Never mind. The trouble with him was when he eventually did start communicating, he used to make these great speeches about how he was wrong and how things were going to be different, and then did nothing about it. In fact, made it bloody worse sometimes. So that's the worst kind of communication. No, it's you've got to give them credit for at least trying. It's not as though they don't have a go. I think they missed an opportunity when Amanda Staveley left. There was a voice there that the fans could fasten onto. At the moment, there isn't one, in my view. But still, they are at least trying. I mean, I've got to say that the thing about the crest, Ashley would never have done anything like that. He wouldn't have consulted. It would just been bang, done, finished. Like tearing St. James's name off the side of the building in the middle of the night, which is one of his favourites. I mean, no, it's at least they are talking to people and putting things out. I mean, not all the questionnaires and the emails that we get from them I enjoy, because some of them point me in a direction I don't want to go. But at least I haven't gotten the opportunity to have me say, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, Blue Rhythm Boy, you're right. Reserve judgment until we see the new crest. If it's a humdinger, then we can complain. And Graham says, anyone with a modicum of sensitivity will sow the seed. This is exactly that. Yeah, well said, everybody. Okay, thoughts on the leaked kit for next season. We did focus a little bit on this a couple of weeks ago, but there is more photographs circulating, which have a bit more definition about them. These ones look very genuine, and I'm afraid once the copies start flying in from Thailand, I think we know that this is probably going to be the strip for next season. Yeah. The new home strip. How are the lads on the back? Tinge of blue round there, stripes, etc. We are like one of the top brands now because of the amount of strips that we sell with Adidas. Of course, the away top, there is a green one circulating, but this is going to be the third strip, I think, or the second strip, whichever, which is a flashback to the old Adidas one that we had under Kenny Dalglish, that era. I mean, George, strips are strips. It's a way of making money. What's your feelings on the two photographs you've just seen there?
Well, I like them both, and the stripes with the little bit of what I would call Northumbrian tartan down the side, just to change, to break the edge a little bit. I think that's a good move, actually, and if you see it as I do, and I think others do as well, it's a nice link to the region, because people have to remember that Newcastle United supporters don't live in Newcastle. They're all over the northeast. It's a moving feast. So anything that helps links us to the region even stronger, I'm fully in favour of. But at the end of the day, supporters will support their team and buy the strip. I'm trying to think who it was that it was a few years ago. It was during Ashley reign. There was some big actor or somebody who'd been at the Theatre Royal, and was that when next time he was on television? He said he couldn't remember going to a city where every time he went out, the only thing he could see in the street that men were wearing were the local team football strip, and that was us. You know, they were black and white all over. Where before it was an unusual thing to see, he realised that up here it was normal. Even when you went out for a drink, you wore your strip. So, no, people will wear it, and I like both. The one that's a hark back to the green with the green in that one, I think that's a nice one. And in fact, having the Adidas trefoil instead of the name, I think makes it even better for me personally. So yeah, I like both of those. They're great. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Give us your views in the chat as well if you want to let us know. Craig says, I hate white panels or shields on the back. It totally ruins the top for me. David says it's needed for UEFA rules on the numbers. Graham says, try Norfolk. Plenty of us around here. Early start and long journey tomorrow morning. Just talking about getting up here for the match tomorrow. And Les agrees that it has to be blank to meet UEFA competition regulations. Question from Jason Reacher is one which will take a little bit of answering, I think. So what we'll do is we'll have a quick ad break. In the meantime, we've only got about 35 minutes left. Get your questions in for George if you've got any, and we'll take them after the break. Big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickys.co.uk. Email info@mrvickys.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel, UK Coach Holidays. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And if you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can find us on Sport Social Podcast Network. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to support the channel, then hit the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the like button, which is the thumb underneath this video, and click share to your social media. You could also take out a monthly membership or an annual membership at nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. For the lifetime membership, you can pay £25 and get a pen, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, a badge and a keyring and your membership card and entry into the monthly draw. Some events coming up, 27th of June, 2025, the end of season party. Beresford, Howie and Watson will be at the Tyneside Irish Centre with Joe Allen in aid of North Tyneside Age UK. You can get your tickets for that one from nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk or from Woucher. No Covers takes place at the Cluny. That's on the 29th of June, midday till 3:45, and tickets are £10 from theclooney.com or newcastlelegends.com. Northern Horizon, a Blake 7 convention, takes place on the 9th of August, 10 till 4 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Come and be some of the cast and crew in aid of Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. Tickets from nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place on Friday the 23rd of January 2026 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. You can get tickets from the box office 0844 249 1000 or from tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And Bad Manners are back in the Northeast at the O2 City Hall, Friday the 30th of January 2026. Tickets from ticketmaster.co.uk. and we have copies of The Entertainer's book signed by Les Ferdinand available from nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. Okay, welcome back to Ask George on this Saturday morning. And Jason's question was, hi George, would you have any of our current squad in your best ever Newcastle United 11? Now, of course, we've all done these shows where we picked our teams, and that's the problem with doing those kind of things.
Absolutely.
They don't age well because there's always another player comes around the corner who could probably edge into them. But yeah, is there a player or two in there that you might think it's difficult because we can't pick up what your team was, George? I know roughly what players you had, but is there anybody now who you would probably slot into that team?
Yeah, I'd have to find a place for Sandro Tonali, Steve. There are things about him which just make him different. He's got the skill, but he also has the engine, and he has the pace which I would love to see young Lewis Miley pick up if he can, because if young Lewis Miley got another yard of pace, and I think he's getting there slowly but surely, we would have a great player in our hands. But Tonali is just so outstanding, everything about his game. A player that you could use as an example to teach young players. When he tackles, he very rarely loses a tackle when he goes in. Even when he's not tackling, if he's face to face with a player, he knows how to shepherd the player to a less dangerous place, or he shepherds them into a throw in or something like that, or a goal kick. And then in the next minute, he like he did against I think the last home game, he went from our box to their far corner in one run, and just left everybody, our lot as well as theirs, gasping for breath because he just outpaced them all. And his reputation internationally, never mind nationally, is grown by the minute. I watch some of the Italian stuff in the Italian media now calling the Newcastle Machina, and Machina in Italian is machine, Newcastle machine. So yes, I'd have to find a place for Sandro Tonali. Then after that, the ones with super skill. Bruno is such a talented player as well. It's very, very difficult. But who would I leave out of my lot to slip Bruno in? And then up front, of course, we've had so many talented number 9s and front men. Alexander Isak's got to be knocking on the door. So there's 3 I would certainly think about. But Tonali, I think, is the only one I would make an effort to get in the team, in my best team.
Yeah, I mean, Tonali's certainly up there. I mean, Alexander Isak, the way he scores goals, if he consistently does that over the next 2 or 3 seasons for Newcastle, then I think Alexander Isak would probably push in as well. But yeah, look, it's a great question, one which I say changes from year to year. Is tomorrow a must-win, George? Says Blue Rhythm Boy.
I don't think it's a must-win, but by Jove, what a difference it would make if we did win, for lots of reasons, not least that we knock Chelsea back, who are level with us. It becomes the traditional 6-pointer, doesn't it? If we beat them and set them back, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if we didn't, because we still got 2 games to play to cement the place in the European Cup. But the win tomorrow puts potentially 2nd place in view. Now, who would have thought that at the beginning of the season? And if you look back, if the silly points we've given away at home, if we'd picked up Brighton and games like that at home, we would be already there. It's just crazy that's the position we put ourselves in. But that's the coup. We'll put ourselves there because when the right Newcastle turns up, we beat anybody. And so yes, it's a good question, a fair question. But I don't think it's the world would end tomorrow if we didn't win. But by Jove, what a difference it would make if we do. Sorry, I'm not good. I'm going to get rid of the if. When we do.
Question from Tom. He says, who do you think will be next to sign a contract at St James's Park?
Well, I hate to go into the oldies again. It would not surprise me one little bit to see Kieran Trippier sign another year. It really wouldn't. When you look at what they've done, and bearing in mind, if we go into Champions League and we want an extended squad that can rotate Wednesday to Saturday and Thursday to Sunday and all that sort of rubbish, then we need players with that kind of experience. And Kieran Trippier, even at his age, has kept himself fit. His knowledge of the game and his way he encourages other players, he would be a nice fit on the bench for a very busy European season. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least to see him. It would not also surprise me suddenly at the end of the season to see them extend the centre forward's contract. He's got 4 years, but all the rumours about going here, going there, I think our owners will make sure that's knocked on the head by giving him an extended contract.
Okay, yeah. I mean, for me, nailing a lot of the players down has been very important, especially with Champions League qualification on the horizon, even with European football on the horizon anyway. Whether it's conference, whether it was Europa, or whether it's Champions League, you need to have a big squad. Yeah. Ideally, George, what we need is 2 11s. You need an 11 that's going to start each game, your strongest 11, but you also need an 11 that can come in and replace that team and have the same kind of ethos and levels of fitness. And I loved what Eddie Howe said yesterday, about, I think they were asking about Anthony Gordon. I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about Anthony Gordon saying, he played well last week. He must be knocking on the door. Has he spoken to you this week about, not being in the team? And ultimately he said, it's not an issue when players aren't playing, because the training that we do, I would expect a player to be able to go straight into a game and play. You know what I mean? It's great to hear.
And then the one thing I've got to say, if you're thinking about next year, the one thing I do not want to see is a Newcastle bench with 3 blooming goalkeepers on it. No more, thank you very much. One goalkeeping substitute will do, and let's have the bench filled with others that can go on and influence the game, because that's what we've been missing the last couple of years. We've had an 11 that could beat anybody on the day, but when the team changes, we've not always had people who could come on and influence the game, and that's the change I would like to see, and that's the job for Mr. Mitchell in the summer break, in the summer window, I'm afraid.
Yeah, okay. Would George drop Willock? Lots of fans are saying he shouldn't be starting, says Blue Rhythm Boy.
I think Joe Willock's a dangerous Joe Willock. And Eddie obviously thinks he's fit enough to start. But I've got to say, I was disappointed in the sense it was a golden opportunity to give young Miley a run out. I still would be inclined to stick young Miley in instead of Willock. But the one thing Joe Willock's got, and here I go on with pace again, when he fit and he moves, he's very quick indeed. And he seems to work well with Isak when he's on the pitch. The pairs seem to work well together. So I can see why Eddie would put him in, because when he's fit and he's got his pace, he's a dangerous player and create things just with his pace. But I'd see the point of the question, and I've got to confess, I would have liked to have seen young Miley get a run out with Joe Linton not being there. He did interesting talking to, there was an interview with Sandro Tonali the other day. I don't know if you've seen it. And when they were asking him who his favourite players were and all the rest of it. And they asked him who he thought the most underrated player was he'd played with. And guess who he said? Sean Longstaff. Now that's interesting from somebody like Tonali. So, we at least have options is the point I'm making. But would I have gone with Willock? No, I might not have gone with Willock. I probably would have gone with young Miley.
Craig says, would you rate our chances for a title challenge if Newcastle signed Mbeumo, Hussein and Trafford?
Yes, you've picked. That's interesting. The only slight difference I would make is that I'm not sure I would go for Mbeumo, but the other two, yeah, nailed on. The Hussein, the last couple of times I've seen him, I mean, he's 3 inches bigger than Geehy. He's about a yard faster. And he seems to be more intelligent in my view, and he's 3 years younger. So, he gets in on lots of it. And Trafford is just outstanding. People shouldn't forget there's a good, strong link with Trafford already, because Anthony Gordon and the others that played in the England under-21s played when Trafford was in goal, and in the under-17s knew Trafford from then. So he comes into a club where there's players he would already know about. Mbeumo, yes, is a tiny player, good player, but yeah, as long that's through the spine of the team, and I think that's where we need the support at the moment, and would really give us an opportunity to have a bench that would frighten people.
Says that was such a diplomatic answer, bigging up both Willock and Mighty's attributes without downing anyone. Many fans could learn from that approach. David says Willock is quick but lacks end product since being out for a while. I think he's just struggled to come back from injury, and sometimes that happens with players. I think as well, because as you said, Joe Linton is such a colossus and such a good player in that position. Of course, when you take him out the team, it's going to be a miss, and especially when you're maintaining the same. Maintaining the same formation. You can't judge Willock against Joe Linton, can you?
Well, there was an interview with one of the Liverpool players that was the midfielder, and he was getting asked who's his best this and who's the best that, and he was asked who was the worst opponent, and he said Joe Linton, Newcastle, because he's a beast, and he said that. So if that's in their mind when they go on the pitch, it's Joe Linton's a beast. We're winning straight away, And he is. He's when he puts his foot in, he means it. Sometimes gets him into trouble, but by and large, he's just a strong player.
Yep, certainly is. Does the PSR deadline make it more likely that we will sign from Premier League rivals compared to shopping abroad like before?
It means we're in a stronger position to look. Don't forget, if they're getting rid of players for PSR reasons, they're not in a very strong bargaining position. So there could be some real bargains to be had from Premiership rivals. And if that's the case, I wouldn't be against us trying that. It would be economically sensible, and if Eddie thinks they're the right players as well. It's a double whammy, isn't it? It's a win-win situation. So no, I wouldn't be against that, but they'd have to be the right players, obviously. But it puts us in a very strong bargaining position. Like we were in a poor bargaining position when we had to get rid of Minty and Anderson. Eddie admits openly he wouldn't have sold those two players, but he had no choice, and that's not a good position to be in. If clubs are in that position, it's time we took advantage of it.
We could have had his sale for 13 million when he went to Brighton. He was a risk that paid off. We can't afford to take risks with our PSR previously. Good point, David. Does George think Joe Linton will play a part tomorrow after having injections? I've got to be honest, I love the press conferences at times, and I genuinely think he'll play tomorrow. I think he'll play some part. The
notion that injections were being used and all the rest of it can only mean one thing: they're trying to get him on the pitch. It's as simple as that for me. As soon as I start hearing Eddie and people like that talking about injections and doing this, I mean, look at what they did with Isak when he had his broken toe. He was getting injections before every game. However, it didn't always work, because sometimes he was obviously not fully fit. But Joe Linton, if they're doing that, it's only one reason: that's to get him on the pitch. And what a difference he would make! What a difference!
Yeah, certainly will. If Joe Linton's on the team sheet, we'll be 1-0 up in the tunnel, says Craig Lee. Would top 3 top quality signings be enough to challenge in 4 competitions, says Roger?
It would be a start for me, Roger. If depending on how much they're prepared to spend and who's available, if we could sneak another one in, I'd be looking to find somebody else who would strengthen our bench, because that's the one weakness we've had. We've not been able to bring people off the bench who influence the game. So an extra one would be fine. But the 3 that we've talked about, the 3 positions we've talked about, would be a heck of a good start compared to where we were this time last year, and be a boost to Eddie as well. But it wouldn't surprise me if it ended up more than 3, to be honest.
I started the podcast with the news that Jacob Murphy has been given the Player of the Month by the PFA. Well deserved that, George.
Yes, I mean, I know there's the statistics, and there's damn lies. Well, the statistics around Jacob Murphy are all in his favour. You know, he's in terms of assists, in terms of goals scored from midfielders, he's top of the pile in the Premiership, and you can't deny that. And the kid obviously works hard, because this is what Eddie says about him. You know how he performs in training and all the rest of it. So he's there on merit, and people shouldn't forget that. And if hard work gets reward, then Jacob Murphy's earned it, in my opinion. You watch carefully, and during a game, there's something. If the right back goes missing, it guarantee that it'll be Jacob Murphy that's filling the hole, knows how to drop back and bolster the defence on that side of the defence. So, no, Jacob Murphy's deserved what he's got. Hard work pays off.
Yeah, hard work pays off, and look, from my perspective, I think he's certainly had his Miguel Almiron season, but there is going to be interesting competition hopefully next season if Newcastle do pursue a right winger. And Blue Rhythm Boy makes a point as well, but will he be dropped for Gordon? Murphy's form's dropped off and Gordon looks fit again. Is that a possibility tomorrow, that we could see Harvey Barnes on the left and Anthony Gordon on the right? Some of the media have been alluding to that this week. Well,
isn't it a nice problem to have? Is my response to that, because neither would upset me, but you only need to see how, and the journalist alluded to it at Eddie's press conference, you only need to see the influence Gordon had at Brighton when he came on, to say that we need him on the pitch. It's just simple as that. He frightened Brighton to death for that short time he was on. In fact, I think if he'd been on a bit longer, we probably would have won that match. But it wouldn't surprise me if Gordon came on. The other thing it nails, of course, is that the other thing people, the press particularly, say about Gordon, he doesn't like this, he doesn't like that, he doesn't like playing there, he doesn't like playing through the middle. Yet when Anthony Gordon's asked face to face, what does he prefer? His answer is, I just want to be in the team. And that's right. I suspect if Eddie picked him as goalkeeper, he'd still be happy as long as he's in the team. He's that sort of player. So it wouldn't surprise me if Anthony Gordon was on and Jacob Murphy was the one that lost out. But both scenarios wouldn't upset me. I think Harvey Barnes would have a justification for a bit of a gripe if he was the one that lost out, because he has played so much better since he's had this run, and he scored some very, very good goals, made some good chances. So, but for me, it's a nice dilemma. It's a nice problem to have, that we've got 3 players who can fill those 2 spots and be equally dangerous, in my opinion.
I mean, this is an interesting one as well. Roger says, would either Gordon or Barnes step up on the right wing? Neither look happy there. I mean, it is a problem, that, isn't it? And that's why we are being linked with right wingers. Well,
yes, and that's the one that we've talked about on here and on various platforms for a while. But the notion that Barnes or Gordon wouldn't step up, I just find is it's not. It's a bit of a downer on the players who they would try the hardest. I've got no doubt about that. Never mind about stepping up. The difficulty for Barnes is that he seems to have more trouble on the right because he's so left-sided, and always tends to cut back and cut in. On the other hand, there are times when he's cut back and cut in, and he's scored wonderful goals. So, but it's again goes back to the fact that we've got that dilemma is a nice dilemma to have.
Yep, certainly is. Okay, yeah, David says, need to look at the bigger picture. Barnes from the bench would have more impact than Murphy from the bench. Gordon has to start, in my opinion, which is interesting. Blue Rhythm Boy says, Barnes has been consistent, played his part against Brighton, so it would be Murphy to drop, in my opinion. It is interesting. That's why Eddie gets paid the big bucks. Graham says, will Botman be back in with Shaw looking tired, George? I mean, Shaw is one of those players who, you know, he gets injured, but he plays on, George. He's a proper, he's a proper centre half, an old school centre half with a bit of panache with the goal scoring that he's had over the years as well. But Botman is gradually getting fitter.
Yes, and a fit Botman's got to be in the team, hasn't he? There's no question about that. But the assumption that it's going to be Shaw that would disappear, I think maybe a step too far. I think there's lots about Fabian Shaw that Eddie likes, not just the fact that he's a centre half. He's a sublime footballer as well. Some of his through balls are as good, if not better, than many of the midfielders. And of course, how many centre backs have got 53 goals on that CV, like Fabian Shaw has, because he's treated with some beautiful goals. So there's lots of reasons, but I also do agree in the sense of being tired. It's noticeable when we have 2 games a week. On the second game, Fabian Shaw, by the end of that second game, looks out of sorts. So it may be that that's a good reason. But the premise of the question is Botman fit? Well, if Botman's fit, he's got to be in the team. You know, he's the Rolls Royce, isn't he? He's not just good; he's brilliant. So he's the Rolls Royce of defenders. He's got the height, the heading ability, the ball playing ability, and although he's labelled left-sided or right-sided, it's not noticeable when he plays, I've got to say. So yes, a fit Botman would be in my team.
Craig says, at this stage, it's about the team winning the game and Champions League qualification. Boo-hoo if players get upset. Craig, I'm glad you're not the manager.
Well, it's good to see them upset for the right reason, though. If they're upset because they're not in the team, that's not a bad thing, because when they get on the pitch, they'll do that much better. And are you telling me that the 25 players on that list who are recorded as our squad won't be cheering along with the others if we get a place in the Champions League? Because the ones in the dressing room will be just as happy as the ones on the pitch. I'm sure about that. No question about it, in fact.
Yeah, this is a difficult one, Blue Rhythm Boy. He says, who would you start, who would you bench, and who would you sell? Rob Lee, Gary Speed, and Sandro Tonali.
Oh, dear. Well, I'm going to turn it. Go on, Steve.
I'm gonna start Rob Lee. I'm gonna have Tonali on the bench, and I'll sell Gary Speed. There you go.
Well, I'm going to turn the question on its head. That's my midfield.
There we go. You got the answer you wanted, but not from the person you wanted. So there we go. Blue Rhythm Boy says, observation regarding the badge, Steve. The hoodie you're wearing and also the league kit has a white border on the patch around the badge. Wouldn't require that. That's a good point. It is a good point.
It is.
Very interesting. No more questions from our adoring public. Thank you, George, for tuning in this morning. And
thank everybody for tuning in. I do enjoy it and do appreciate it.
And thank you to everybody for getting up at this ungodly hour to watch NUFC Matters, as always. If you are watching on Twitter, please consider searching NUFC Matters on YouTube and hitting the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. We're back at 9 o'clock in the morning with the professionals. Look forward to seeing you all then. Enjoy your day, whatever you're doing, and see you all tomorrow morning. Thanks, George.
Pleasure. Good to see everybody. See you soon, I hope.